are the Brotherhood of Steel.
The Brotherhood of Steel, much like the Super Mutants, is a repeated element in the franchise, appearing in each title to date. They're popular, and it's easy to see why. Trained in energy weapons and wearing highly protective armor that increases the strength of the user, the band of futuristic soldiers is quite an appealing faction. But, over the course of the franchise's history, the Brotherhood of Steel has been in the hands of different developers multiple times. As such, it's only natural for the interpretation of the Brotherhood to change. Bethesda is the current owner of the franchise. Well, Bethesda and Microsoft, after they purchased Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax. I'm not entirely sure how this will affect the development and creative input of the titles. Regardless, so far we have no Fallout titles published under the Microsoft Bethesda umbrella. For now, we'll look at the mainstream titles and ask, did Bethesda ruin the Brotherhood of Steel? We're looking only at the main titles, New Vegas and 76 included, for one particular reason. While Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout Brotherhood of Steel both had the Brotherhood central to the plot, which is obvious given they're the titular faction, they're not exactly canon to the series. There is a Chicago detachment influenced by Tactics, but the events are largely a mystery.
There's also a small detachment in Chicago, but they're off the radar. Gone rogue. Long story.
Todd Howard, speaking about Fallout 3, even stated, for our purposes, neither Fallout Tactics nor Fallout Brotherhood of Steel happened. So, let's get started. The major complaints I've heard about the Brotherhood's interpretation are between two things. Number one, classic fans complained extensively about Fallout 3's interpretation of the Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 3 portrays Elder Lion's chapter as the good guys, doing everything they can to bring about peace to the capital wasteland. For classic fans, this completely destroys the interpretation of the Brotherhood, as they were meant to be technophiles that isolated themselves from the problems of the wasteland, hoping to outlive the world that will eventually kill itself in time. In contrast, they praise New Vegas' Brotherhood as it fits more in line with the original interpretation. Number two, post-classic fans, on the other hand, complain about Fallout 4's interpretation of the Brotherhood. For them, the Brotherhood of Steel in 4 is a nearly evil organization. They feel they're too xenophobic, wanting to wipe out all ghouls, super mutants, and synths regardless of sentience and intelligence.
Turning your weapons on the very same people that you're trying to save can be a bitter pill to swallow.
It's interesting. One part of the fandom feels like Bethesda turned them too good in Fallout 3, while other feels they turned too evil in Fallout 4. So, who, if either, is right? To start, let's look at how they were used over the course of the series. Naturally, we began our adventure with Fallout 1. In this game, the Brotherhood doesn't stand as an incredibly important faction, though their armor, the T-51B, does appear on the cover. The Brotherhood itself is headed by Elder Maxon. Hi, Elder John Maxon, specifically. John Maxon is often annoyed with the Council of Elders' indecisiveness, showing that he personally is more of a man of action.
Well, you see, there's 4 of them, and that's about all they can ever agree on. They can't even agree if they want to piss, much less pick a pot to piss in.
The Brotherhood itself acts pretty isolated, and despite High Elder John Maxon's more proactive leadership, he still doesn't trust outsiders. The Brotherhood has a faux quest in place that is designed to drive away outsiders looking to join. Or, more specifically, it's a rogue quest, but it's designed to be extremely difficult and will kill most outsiders due to heavy radiation. Still, when a Vault Dweller does complete the quest, the Brotherhood sticks to their word and allows him to enter. There, the Vault Dweller can perform quests and even help John Maxon convince the other Elders that a threat of a looming army is coming, the Super Mutants. They will, only then, proceed to send out a small team of paladins to assist the Vault Dweller, either at the Mariposa military base or the Cathedral. One's interpretation is simply a reserve group that excludes many outsiders from the ranks, but do actively trade with the outside world. The High Elder believes there's an army coming, but the Council of Elders needs to be convinced that they exist, and that they're a threat. Overall, they're an important faction, but not very vital to the game. They really hold just about as much importance as, say, the Followers of the Apocalypse, who, led by Nicole, are arguably more of a direct opposition to the mutant army and the Children of the Cathedral, given their more active nature against the Dark God.
They claim to want peace like us, but anyone who disagrees with them just disappears. Their Dark God is not what he seems, believe me.
So, overall, the Brotherhood is more self-centered. They don't care about protecting anything more than their own, really. They're not willing to waste combat on anything not a threat to them. And, generally speaking, their interactions with the outside world is limited to trading. They're not an evil or good faction, but one that focuses on their self-interest. Fallout 2 is a bit different. The Brotherhood has a very limited appearance, mostly reserved to a few outposts in specific towns, with the San Francisco one leading you to a quest to infiltrate the Enclave. In total, barring special encounters, there's only about 3 specific Brotherhood members in the entire game. There are mentions of past Brotherhood members, but they have a small presence in the active world. In 2, they're referred to as being weaker than the time of Fallout 1. Despite being in fairly populated cities, and having their insignia on their outposts, they keep a low profile and stay undercover. Still, the Brotherhood keeps to themselves, suggesting they're not particularly engaged with the community. Matthew, of the San Francisco outpost, acknowledges that their hoarding of technology has led to a dwindling strength. Whether the entire Brotherhood of Steel at the time sees this, or it's just Matthew's own perspective, is uncertain. What is presented in this Brotherhood of Steel is a weak point. They're humbled by their short numbers, and the powerful Enclave looming. They're not presented as righteous, but as struggling. Moving on to Fallout 3, the presentation changes quite a bit. For starters, they move from being an important faction to the faction. They're absolutely integral to the plot of Fallout 3. Elder Alliance leads a group of Brotherhood soldiers to DC, and over time he begins to sympathize with the locals and win against orders. He decided that the Brotherhood should directly help people by saving them from the danger of the wasteland rather than hoarding technology. The problem is that many Brotherhood soldiers are more loyal to the original cause and detach themselves from Lion's Brotherhood, or Lionhood as I'll refer to them from this point on, and took the mantra of outcasts. Those who stayed with Lionhood are loyal to the Elder, those in the outcasts are more loyal to the cause. Thing is, even Lions understands why the outcast members left.
I can't blame them, but I stand by my decision, and I respect theirs.
Lionhood specifically is virtuous, but weak. Short of men, Lions started to recruit outsiders, which is far from the norm. Usually the only outsiders to make it in are exceptional.
Damn initiates.
They're outfitted with T-45Ds, a weaker power armor compared to the T-51B that the Western Brotherhood enjoys. Caught between a never-ending stream of yellow-toon supermutants who are at least thankfully dumber than the Western counterparts, and the Enclave, though weaker now, are still a dangerous force, it seems that Lionhood is about to be choked out of existence. Meanwhile, the outcast simply takes care of their own. They spit more venom to the locals, often saying they feel pestered by outsiders and calling them very primitive.
Hey, local, shouldn't you be banging rocks together or something?
Back off, local.
Of course, a lot of this is probably just irritation about Elder Alliance changing course due to the locals, and lost hostility to the locals themselves. They insult the player but won't attack them. Once again, they're presented as a fairly recluse. There's only a small series of missions available for the player to do with them, one pretty reserved for a DLC. They're also working to make contact with the Western Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout New Vegas features them once more, back to being an important faction, but not a vital faction. Once again, they're struggling to survive. They lost a war with the NCR and are hiding in a bunker. Many are wanting to get back out there like Head Paladin Hardin, while the Elder McManera wants to wait to be sure it's safe. Depending on who the player decides to be Elder, the Brotherhood is able to ally with the NCR, so leadership affects progress. Veronica perhaps gives the best inside scoop to their lives.
Veronica, I hope...
I brought you a present. We found a gun that disables power armor. One of these could defeat the whole Brotherhood. We have to stop limiting our focus to military technology. It won't save us.
That could be the only one of its kind.
That's not the point. Technology won't win our wars. We need numbers, new recruits.
What does the Codex say?
A bunch of closed-minded bullshit.
We do not help them or let them in.
But...
we keep knowledge they must never have.
give it a chance. For me. I can't stay here and watch us waste away.
I'm sorry.
We'll die out.
I know.
Come on. I can't listen to this anymore.
A large group settled in a waste, distrustful to outsiders. It's immovable. And dying. New Vegas' Brotherhood of Steel is probably the more faithful to the interpretation that one gave. Hiding out in a bunker, a handful of soldiers on the outside, and unwilling to act until leadership is certain. There's obvious differences, of course. The Mojave faction is having to hide out due to a recent defeat. Still, there's a certain level of overlap. On to Fallout 4. They're vital to the overall plot once again, but not overbearingly so. Through the 4-faction system, similar to New Vegas, you can get through the entire game with minimal interaction with the Brotherhood of Steel, whereas in 3, they are the plot. Arthur Maxson, who is a descendant of Fallout 1's John Maxson, took over the Lions Brotherhood chapter and established a new dogma that melded the teachings of Lions Brotherhood chapter and those of the West.
This campaign will be costly, and many lives will be lost. But in the end, we will be saving humankind from its worst enemy. Itself. Ad Victoriam.
They once again coveted technology, although they became slightly more lenient about who uses it. They actually recruit to swell their numbers, while completely and utterly rejecting everything non-human. Vilifying supermutants, ghouls, and Siths kept an enemy in sight. They keep the more important technologies for themselves while they commit total warfare on the streets of the Commonwealth, all while telling the Wastelanders that they're the heroes. This proactive but self-interested personality allowed Arthur to gain the support of the Western Elders and reunite with the Outcast. And, more importantly, increase the power of the Eastern Chapter's Brotherhood.
A decade ago, the Brotherhood had almost gone completely astray. The Elder before Maxson sent us down a path that was leading nowhere. He was more concerned about charity than the preservation of technology. But when Maxson took over, he single-handedly reprioritized the Brotherhood from the ground up and put us back on the path to glory. This ship and its crew are a testament to his leadership.
There was also the Brotherhood of 76, the West Virginia chapter. Was being the key word, unless future expansions to the online game altered the storyline. 76 Brotherhood was a prequel anyways, existing in the same timeline as High Elder Roger Maxson, pretty far detached from Lost Hills' bar communication line, and was dead by the start of the game, so it's pretty inconsequential to really consider. So, the two major complaints. Did Bethesda ruin the Brotherhood by making them goody two-shoes in Fallout 3? And did Bethesda ruin the Brotherhood by making them xenophobic warmongers in Fallout 4? Well, let's start with our first question and take a few things into consideration. First, the game does establish pretty well that Elder Lions Brotherhood is a detachment. Time and time again, the game says that they're not following the original mission that they were set out for. From the Outcasts,
I mean the Brotherhood from out west, back around California. We knew what we were doing back there. We didn't waste time with delusions of heroism. We were collecting still glowing embers from the ashes of humanity, before civilization's fire died completely. We didn't worry about saving individual communities. We worried about saving the progress of humanity itself.
To head scribe Rothschild.
It wasn't why we were sent here. Good or bad has nothing to do with it. Lyons knew that, but ignored it. He decided it was more important to save the people here than to obey orders from his superiors. For years he'd try and persuade them to send reinforcements and supplies, all the while stringing them along, saying he was sticking to the mission. Finally, things came to a head. Lyons directly refused orders, and so the West Coast cut us off. No communications, no reinforcements.
To Elder Lyons himself.
Only in a very broad sense. The Brotherhood's oaths are to protect humanity's progress, but not necessarily every human. The outcasts and members of the Brotherhood in other places consider it a waste to protect most people. After all, they say, everyone knows how to make another human, but the secrets to making a P-94 plasma rifle are all but lost.
Despite all this, so many still criticize Fallout 3 for turning the paramilitary force into a holy paragon of truth and justice, when it plainly states that they're a rogue force. Why? It obviously didn't break lore. It's not like the entire faction steadily changed. There's even evident conflict within their own ranks. And the reason, I believe, is presentation. See, despite there being very important NPCs that reinforce the fact that Lionhood disobeyed orders, was cut off from the Western Brotherhood, and had a small civil war going on between former comrades due to the choices that Elder Lions made, it doesn't really present it that way. For instance, take the fact that the Brotherhood outcasts are called the Brotherhood Outcast. It feels strange that a group that is following the behavior of the original Brotherhood, and thus its mission, would refer to themselves as outcasts when their ideals are more in line with their Western teachings. They even go as far as changing their logo and painting their armor a different color. Why would the ones claiming to stick to the originals drop the title of the faction they love? Meanwhile, excommunicated Elder Lion still refers to his brotherhood as the Brotherhood, as do many members of the chapter. Yes, when going over history, they make sure to mention the difference, but it doesn't stick. Not to mention, the Brotherhood outcast story plays more in the background. It's perfectly possible to go through the main story, never stumbling upon them bar some random encounters. If you don't go that rabbit hole, you might just think the Brotherhood always was such a caring faction. If you're a brand new player, and for many, myself included, that is the case, it can be confusing. Which makes the immediate jump to New Vegas and seeing the more reclusive and frankly jerk-ashish Brotherhood jarring. Now, onto Fallout 4's Brotherhood. They're plenty more hostile to super mutants, ghouls, and synths, or at least it's brought out more to the open. They desire to eliminate the synths at all costs, even among their own. They revel in killing anything non-human. After all, the Brotherhood is humanity's best hope, as they claim. And even though none will attack your companions, likely for gameplay reasons, bringing Hancock, Strong, or Nick aboard the Prydwen can prompt the Brotherhood to insult them.
Hey.
If your ghoul even looks like it's going feral, I'm putting it down.
But it's a doctrine they adopted new. No, it goes back further. Fallout 3 actually shows that the Brotherhood, more specifically Lion's Brotherhood, does not mind shooting at the ghouls of the underworld, as stated by Willow and Winthrop.
Yeah, you know, those humans like you. Well, maybe not like you, I don't know, but humans all the same. The Brotherhood of Steel guys with their testosterone and power armor. Those Psycho Talon Company mercs. Those other assholes.
Really, the Brotherhood of Steel is the only thing we have to worry about. So long as we don't leave Underworld, that is. Bastards. They don't seem to be able to tell us apart from the super mutants. Or maybe they just don't care. They see us and shoot on sight. At least they have the common courtesy to miss most of the time. Still, bigots.
While they could be forgiven for shooting at super mutants on sight, given that there's about 2 known intelligent, peaceful super mutants in the capital wasteland, a stark contract with the West Coast, there's very little difference between the West and East Coast ghouls, and they should know the difference between ferals and sane ghouls. However, we can take a step back one more game and find at least one more instance where the Brotherhood displayed open xenophobia. Marcus, a super mutant companion in Fallout 2, tells the story about a Brotherhood soldier, Jacob.
Right. After the Master and the Vats were destroyed, I wandered a bit. No place to go. One day got attacked by this fool wearing power armor. And that was Jacob, from the Brotherhood of Steel. He'd sworn some oath to destroy muties. We tussled for a while. Probably a day or two. After a while, we just started laughing. What was the point? We became friends. Headed off together. Then, other people started following us. Guess they figured if they weren't safe with a mutie and a steel knight, safe just wasn't going to happen.
While the story of Jacob turned out to be fairly wholesome, the fact is, he attacked Marcus on sight due to his oath to kill muties. The desire to kill mutants, which may not be limited to super mutants, seems to be a Brotherhood cause. Fallout 2 and Fallout 3 point to the faction having at least an underlying xenophobic nature. It's just brought up to the forefront with Fallout 4. After all, the central theme is fear, paranoia, and hatred. This reflects American history to a degree. It's no accident that a major faction in 4, though originally created in 3, is named the Railroad and desires to free enslaved sentient beings. So, did Bethesda ruin the Brotherhood of Steel? I would say no. To be clear, Bethesda could have done a lot more to present a more clear separation between the Lion's Brotherhood and the Brotherhood out west. I will confess that. But as far as Fallout 4, I would say the Brotherhood has been more developed. I feel like more people have been shocked since the bigotry of Fallout 3's Brotherhood are only mentioned in a few easily missed lines. And after all, the presentation of 3's Brotherhood can make you easily believe they always intended to be good guys. And for a lot of guys, Fallout 3 is their first Fallout game. So no, I don't think they ruined the Brotherhood of Steel, but I do think there's a few things they could have done to polish and shine them.